Hello all, welcome to the new Simply Put series by Kalam Academy. This is Priyanka Mahapatra, faculty at Kalam. So today we'll be having a detailed discussion on the newspaper and the text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper dated 27th November 2023. So in the text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper, Bihar demanding special category status becomes very important from the prelims and the mains perspective. So we will be understanding this. Again, this article is unimportant, so we won't be discussing this. Again, coming to the explain page of today's newspaper, 2023, 28th November. Growing more from less is important from our perspective. Kambala sport is important from our perspective. So we'll be discussing both the articles. So let's get started. So these are the articles displayed on your screen, which we are going to discuss. So the first article is about that Bihar is demanding the special category status. So this is important from your GS paper 2 perspective. So we'll be understanding what is special category status, what are the benefits attached to it, have other states also demanded the same, or it's the Bihar that is demanding for the first time, and what are the challenges if we keep a state in the special category status. So why this was in news now? In fact, it comes again and again every year. But now it is in the backdrop of the findings of the Bihar Caste Survey 2022, which revealed that nearly one-third of the Bihar's population continues to live in poverty, based on which it has demanded to be put in the special category status. So the concept of special category status emerged in 1969 on the recommendation of Fifth Finance Commission, and when the Gadgil formula that determined the central assistance to states was approved. So there are 5 factors that are considered before granting the special category status based on the Gadgil formula. It is hilly and terrain must be difficult, low population density or sizable share of tribal population. Because of this criteria, Odisha is also demanding special category status, where the tribal population is 22% of the state. Then again, the state must be having a strategic location along the international borders. The state should be having backwardness in terms of economy and infrastructure. And there should be non-viable nature of state finances. So these factors are taken into account while granting the special category status to a state. Right? So now the question is that, is there any constitutional provision for the same? No. There is no such provision in the constitution for categorization of any state as the special category status. But considering the fact that some areas in India are historically disadvantaged as compared to others, the center has assisted states with certain funds in the past allocated by the National Development Council. Right? Then there are some states which have been granted the status of special category status. So in 1969, initially 3 states got the status, that is Jammu Kashmir, Assam and Nagaland. Subsequently, 8 more states also got the status, including Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Sikkim, Tripura, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Right? So this is a map over here. You can have a look at it, which all states got the status. So what are the benefits attached to it? What favors does a state get if at all it is given the status? Why are the states interested in getting the status? Of course, there must be something attached to the finances. Yes, they are receiving grants of nearly 30% of the total central assistance for the states. Nearly 30% of the funds they are kept aside for these states based on the Gadgil-Mukherjee formula. Again, in case of centrally sponsored schemes, they are getting funds in the ratio of 90:10 against the usual ratio, that is 60:40 or 80:20. So this is becoming far more favorable. Again, the biggest benefit they are getting, that the unspent money doesn't lapse at all and it is carried forward. Right? For these benefits, the states are more interested in getting the status. However, after the abolition of the Planning Commission and the recommendations of the 14th and the 15th Finance Commission, this assistance to these states have been subsumed in an increased devolution of the divisible pool funds for all states, right? You know that how it has been increased. From 32% it has come to 41% in the 15th Finance Commission. So thereafter, the 14th Finance Commission has completely done away with this status, except the northeastern states or the hilly states. So there has been a demand of special category status for Bihar being made by various political parties time and again. They're saying that they're one of the poorest states from all times because of the lack of natural resources, because of the regular floods happening in the northern region, because of the severe droughts they are facing in the southern part of the state. They're having per capita GDP of only 54,000 rupees. Again, due to the bifurcation of the state, there has been a shifting of industries to the Jharkhand region, thus creating a shortage of employment and investment opportunities. It is a home to around 94 lakh poor families. So these are the main reasons based on which Bihar state is demanding its special category status. So now the question is, have other states also demanded the same? Yes, Andhra Pradesh. Since its bifurcation happened in 2014, Andhra Pradesh has asked for a grant of special category status on the grounds of revenue loss. Revenue loss due to the Hyderabad going to Telangana. Also, Odisha is asking for the status because it is feeling vulnerable to the natural calamities happening every year, such as cyclones. Also, it has large tribal population of nearly 22% of the state. So what is the center's stand on all these demands? It has repeatedly denied all their demands because the 14th Finance Commission says that no state is to be accorded the status because it has already increased the devolution, right? Except the northeastern states and the hilly states. So the main question is that despite center's denial to grant any state as special category status, is Bihar's demand justified? Although Bihar meets most of the criteria for the grant of special category status, it does not fulfill the requirement of hilly terrain and geographically difficult areas. That is why in 2013 Raghuram Rajan committee it has placed Bihar in the least developed category, and it has suggested a new methodology based on the multidimensional index which will devolve some funds instead of giving them SCS status, special category status. Now we'll come to the challenges. So what are the general challenges in the process of giving the special category status to a state? First is multiple demands. If Andhra Pradesh, Odisha and Bihar are demanding, tomorrow many states will come and demand the same status because they're getting some additional finances, right? So in this process there will be economic burden. It puts economic burden additionally when there is increased devolution already flowing to the state as recommended by the 14th and the 15th Finance Commission. Third reason is that it affects the federalism. It affects the center-state financial relations and thereby hindering the competitive federalism among the states. So this was all about the first topic's discussion. Let's move on to the next topic. So let's now come to the second article of the day, that is about the Kambala sport in Karnataka. This is very important from the GS paper 1 perspective, where the culture as a section is important and it is studied. It is important from the essay perspective, where you can use this knowledge in the topics like customary law or religion. It is again important from the GS paper 2 perspective. So why this was in news? Because Kambala as a sport in the past has been banned by the Supreme Court, but now the Karnataka government, keeping its popularity in the mind, it has amended the legislation to allow that sport to go on. You know that movies like Kanthara, it has given this event of sport a pan Karnataka appeal. And due to the success of the movie, many people are now interested in learning the sport. So what is the sport now? It is a folk sport practiced in the Karnataka coastal districts, especially in the regions where Tulu speakers form the majority. It has been practiced after the paddy harvest. So why was Kambala outlawed by the Supreme Court? The first reason is animal abuse. So NGOs like PETA, they had filed a petition against all the traditional sporting events complaining about the animal abuse. Because in this sport particularly, the buffalo's nose are tied with a rope and the animals are whipped continuously during the race. So that led to the ban of sports like Jallikattu, Kambala and bullock cart racing in 2014. So what is Jallikattu? It's also important to remember this. You can get it in the prelims. It's a popular bull taming sport held during the Pongal time in Tamil Nadu. So Kambala is celebrated in Karnataka. Jallikattu is from Tamil Nadu. This you need to remember from prelims. So how was the ban lifted even after getting banned by the Supreme Court in 2014? Because exception was made by the Ministry of Environment in 2016, subject to certain conditions aimed at reducing the suffering of the animals concerned. Again, there was amendment by the state government to the law, that is Prevention of Cruelty to the Animals Act, to provide an exemption for these events. And when it was challenged, a 5-judge constitutional bench upheld the amendments made by the state governments of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra this year. Right? Again, you should know that Kambala as a sport is being accused of caste discrimination. It has got a caste angle attached to it. How? Because there is ill treatment of the Koraga community there in the event. They are being considered as untouchables and they are being ill treated in the event. So you have to remember the Koraga community is from Karnataka. Again, it has been accused that it is controlled basically by the dominant caste groups, while the lower caste just end up doing menial jobs during the event. Right? So this is all for your information regarding this news article. So let's now come to the third article of the day, that is producing more from less, and how Indian agriculture here has actually transitioned in the last 60 years after independence in the terms of productivity yields. So we will be studying about the factors of production, then the factors of technology that has come thereafter in the Green Revolution era, and then how they are being impacted by each other. Right? So this becomes very important from the essay paper perspective, where topics like agriculture and technology directly come, or you can also use in some philosophical topics which mean more from less. Right? Again, it is very important from the GS paper 3 perspective as well, where agriculture is a dominant section to be studied. Right? So let's get started. So the 4 factors of production we have always known from our school time are land, water, labor and energy. So these are called as inputs otherwise. So during the pre-Green Revolution era, that is during 1950-51 to 1961-62, it was the thought process that the quantity of inputs used will largely determine the output produced by them. It was always the quantity of inputs, not the quality. We were not thinking of quality then because there was no technology available that time. So the extent and the quality of land will largely drive the cultivation, largely drive the productivity. Whatever cultivation, whatever productivity was happening, that was because of the quality and the extent of land under the plow. It is proven by the fact that net sown area rose very drastically during that process. It is 14%. It is the rise of 14% during that era, that is 1950 to 51 to 1961-62. It actually rose from 118.75 lakh to 135.40 lakh hectares over that period. Right? So here we will be understanding the factors of production one by one. So coming to the first factor of production, that is land. The agricultural land quality is the function of soil fertility and the water availability. That is why there is a ranking in the descending order of fertility we followed that time, that is alluvial soils in the Indo-Gangetic plains and the Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari and the Mahanadi deltas of the eastern coast were the most fertile lands, and we used to reap the benefits there. Again, black cotton soils of the Deccan, Malwa and the Saurashtra plateaus are next in the order of fertility, and the least fertile were red, brown, laterite, mountain and the desert soils. So we actually followed this ranking of descending order of fertility for the cultivation purpose, right? So next factor of production being the water. So water availability is dependent on both rainfall and the access to irrigation then. So you know that the great ancient civilizations, they came up mostly in the river valleys near the sources of water that could sustain vibrant population due to the vibrant agricultural productivity there, right? Then third factor of production is labor and energy. So labor and energy, they share a direct relationship with the productivity then. The main source of energy in the farms were bullock carts, and the use of plough, bullock carts and the Persian wheels for irrigation were the main source of inputs then in the traditional agriculture. So the more the farm hands and the bullocks to work in the land, the more the produce that was harvested that time, right? So now, just as four factors of production are there, there are four factors of technology also there in the agriculture. These are genetics, crop nutrition, crop protection, and agronomic interventions and mechanization. So how they will help? They will enable the efficient use of the factors of production, that is land, energy, water, and labor. They will result in the higher yields. Higher yields means more from less. They will be helping in the more produce from the same acre of land or same number of laborers or even less. So that will result in the higher yields. Let's now understand the first factor of technology, that is genetics. You all know the importance of genetics in the Green Revolution era. There would have been no Green Revolution without the introduction of high yielding varieties of rice and wheat. So how did the Green Revolution actually impact the agricultural productivity? What did they do? They introduced the dwarfing genes. So what is this dwarfing gene? It will reduce the height of the plant. So by the reduction of the height of the plant, the stem will stay strong always, thereby helping the grain bearing panicles to stay upright always. Thereby the absorption of nutrients will be good in that manner. When the stems will stay upright, the absorption will be more. Thereby it will be getting converted to much healthier grains. On the other hand, when the stems are long and where the ear heads are heavy with the well-filled grains, they will bend over, they will fall flat on the ground, thus hindering the absorption of nutrients in the process, and it will not be getting converted to the healthier grains. So this is how the genetics actually helped in the productivity levels. Then the second factor of technology being the crop nutrition. So how crop nutrition brought a revolution with the help of chemical fertilizers. So chemical fertilizers were higher in NPK content, that is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium levels. And thus it saved on labor because there was no requirement of maintaining animals, collecting, storing and composting the manure then, because the chemical fertilizers were available in ready to use form from the factories itself, right? So the third factor of technology is the crop protection now. So you have to understand the interlinkage between the crop protection and the other two factor of technology that we studied. So whatever yield gains we are getting from the genetics or breeding, whatever yield gains we are getting from nutrition or chemical fertilizers, they are realized to the maximum possible extent with the help of crop protection measures only. Right? So basically the crop protection is about defending plants from insect pest, pathogens and weeds, that is from the time of their sowing to harvesting to the marketing even, that is throughout their life cycle, right? So the next factor of technology being the mechanization and other agronomic intervention. So for example, tractor, in case of mechanization, it has rendered bullock carts redundant. It is using implements like rotavators and reversible mold board plows, which is helping in the deep tillage, in the mixing and pulverization of the soils, and breaking the hard pan layers. So this is how it is increasing the productivity of the agriculture with the same amount of laborers with the same land. Then the other factor of technology being the agronomic interventions like water saving technologies. For example, drip irrigation, laser land levelers which will help in the uniform placement of seed and fertilizer. We can use the intercropping as well, which is growing more than one crop simultaneously on the same piece of land. This has allowed even cultivating pomegranates in the Rajasthan's arid desert soils because of the drip irrigation process and water soluble fertilizers. We can also talk of drones in the interventions, in the technological interventions which are used for spraying fertilizers and agrochemicals. We can use sensors for real-time monitoring of crop and field conditions, right? So these are the factors of technology we have talked. Now we come to the main point in the topic, that is how the factors of technology, they have shifted up the aggregate production function in the agriculture. How they have given more output from the same or even less level of inputs. Now we will see a graph here. So in this graph, you can see that during the phase of 2005-6 to 2021-22, the annual growth has been the highest among all the phases, that is 3.7%. So why? Because of the faster diffusion of the productivity enhancing technologies and the improvement in the communication infrastructure then. Due to the improvement in the rural roads, electricity, irrigation facilities, the annual growth has risen so much. So now we can conclude that the factors of technology have actually trumped the factor of production. It is also proven by the fact that it is not because of the land use, more land use or more inclusion of land into agriculture that has actually led to the productivity levels in the agriculture during the post green revolution era, because the net sown area in India has just risen by 3.3% during this time, as against the 14% rise during the pre green revolution era. So this fact you can quote to prove that point. So during the last 50 years, the factor of technology has actually been the reason for the growth in agricultural production. So this was all about this article. This was all about today's discussion. Thank you so much.